So it's been 5 years in the making. 5 years. Actually, no. When did we do Business in Bed?
That was over COVID.
So like 4 years ago?
Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Yeah. So, well, it's good to have you here, wife.
Thanks.
So for those of you guys who are not watching and or only listening today, we have a very special guest. In fact, you might argue that it's the most special guest I've ever had on the podcast. My wife is joining me today, Miss Jaimee Morse. Welcome to Studio K.
Thank you. Your mic is so close to your face. Is mine supposed to be closer?
No, like 6 to 8 inches. Like, so, I mean...
Okay.
A real 6 to 8 inches. So, babe, I'm excited to talk to you because we have never really told your story. And I think it's going to be kind of fun. So we're going to jump right in. And I want you to tell everyone like a little bit about what kind of work you do, what business you're in, and how you kind of fell into it.
So I'm a wedding photographer. I've been doing it for about 14-ish years now. And I got into photography because we had just gotten married. I knew that I wanted to stay home with the kids, or I thought I wanted to stay home with the kids.
I was going to say, I don't really remember those days.
Yeah, they were before having kids. And I thought I should do something that I can do as like a hobby and, just kind of do on the side while also so I can have that flexible schedule of being able to stay home with the kids. And just I took a class in college, and we were in a college where everyone was getting engaged. And so I had a lot of people that I could photograph their engagement photos, their weddings, and yeah, just kind of snowballed from there. And I kind of tested out every different avenue of photography, from shooting for magazines and like editorial stuff and fashion and family portraits. And what I found about weddings is that it touched on all the things that I loved, but gave me like enough variation.
What are some of those things that you loved?
So like it has, on every wedding, you have the fashion component, which I love, but you don't have the red tape of companies that are like, I wish that her thumb was tilted this way. Like, I don't have any of that. So there's the fashion, there's the still life as far as like flat lays that I'm shooting and details that I'm shooting. And then I do love portraits, as long as like family portraits, as long as there's not a crazy mom. And usually on the wedding day, there's not a crazy mom. Everyone's happy. So I get to still do those family portraits, and then just portraiture, and then also just like candids, photojournalistic style too. I love.
Cool. So I'm gonna ask you, and we'll dive deeper into kind of the progression of the business and how you've really grown. And it's been really cool, obviously, as your life partner, to watch you grow and flourish. And I think people think that I'm joking around when I say that you're the business person in the family, because they always kind of like chuckle at me. And then I'm like, no, like I'm legitimately, like, I'm serious. I pretty much just parrot the things that I see you do. And it's been really cool to watch you that. So like, for those of you guys who don't know, Jamie and I have been married for 14 years.
13, Dave.
13?
13.
Shit. Almost 14. New Year's will be 14.
Well, yeah,
so
not.
we're closer to 14 than 13.
Whatever.
All right. So, and we're high school sweethearts, been together since we were 17. Junior year of high school. We have 4 little rugrats now. And so it's also been neat to kind of just like learn business and progress through business together as parents and with a growing family. And so I'd like to talk about that a little bit too. It is really weird sitting here and talking to you in a studio. Like we're not good. I don't feel like we're really good at this.
No.
but it's fun. Like so I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because I think at least when you're outside of the creative space too, I don't know if people necessarily think about the business aspects of it, and I think you've done a really good job like navigating those and growing like a really cool business model. And so I'd like to share that with our listeners too. So tell me, like, so you were in college, you pick up a camera. I remember like the first picture that you took that like stands out in my mind. Do you remember what you know what I'm gonna say?
The Post-it note one?
Yeah, the Post-it note on the bottom of the shoe.
So cool.
It was the coolest picture. Maybe Casey could like paste it up in the YouTube channel. But we were sitting there, and you put an index card on the bottom of my foot. And
was it yours?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, I had these like big, ugly black loafers on.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
old man loafers, and you were wearing a plaid skirt, and you were wearing your red trench coat, your Carmen Sandiego coat.
So fashionable.
Yeah. So now I feel like sometimes I make up like I'm kind of poetic and a hopeless romantic, and so that shows through in my storytelling sometimes. And so I always like to I remember it that you lost money on the first wedding that you ever shot.
Oh yeah, I charged them, I think it was like $450 for, I want to say like 10 hours of coverage, an engagement session, and I included an album in that. And so I think albums at that time started at like $350. So if you count in like the editing time and travel and all that type of stuff, I either lost money or made like $2 an hour or something like that. So
wow. So there's definitely been a progression, because now like you're shooting, I mean, $1 million events and weddings, and so yeah, you've obviously grown. So walk me through kind of your thought process as you decided to pursue photography as a profession. Like, what did that look like? You mentioned that you thought it was going to be like something you could do while you stayed at home with the kids. So like, paint me a picture of what that looked like and maybe what you discovered.
it looked like I don't want to stay home with these crazy people.
Tell me more about that. What does
That's
that
what
mean?
it looked like. I realized that it wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be to just be at home, though I obviously love our kids, but I just needed some type of outlet, and I was good at it. And people kept telling me I was good at it. And so, I don't know, I didn't want to stay home. And it wasn't like anything crazier than that, I think.
So tell me the story of it. Like, you're in Wisconsin, and what did those first couple years look like?
Well, so I started the business in Wisconsin, which was a great option for me looking back on it because the market was so small. We were in a tiny little, was it considered a city?
A town. City.
Yeah. And so like there wasn't many options. I started at the very budget level, and then we moved over to Minneapolis, made some friends in the wedding industry, kind of leveled up into more of like a lovely market is what it's called in the wedding industry.
A lovely market?
Lovely market.
Okay, before you get into the lovely market, what were some of the advantages of being in a small market then? Like, why do you think that helped you at the beginning? Because I would think, okay, there's less weddings happening, so how do you actually get clients?
Well, there's just not a lot of options. It's either like, oh, my best friend can photograph it, or this person that says that they're a professional wedding photographer.
Oh, so not a lot of options for photographers.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
What other advantage? Don't ask me. Does that sound right? I'm just curious, like, because you obviously picked up some clients in a tiny, tiny market, so.
Yeah, I think also, no, that I had an idea in my head, but it's not coming out.
All right, so you get into Minneapolis. So we go from Wisconsin to Minneapolis. I love you. And you get into the lovely market. Like, what does that mean?
So there's like an actual number so like budget, I believe, is considered, I'm not going to get these numbers wrong, but it's like a certain like $30,000 or less for your wedding, your whole wedding. And then lovely is like, I don't know, $60,000 or less. And then you usually go to premium, which is like, I think $300,000 or less. And again, I'm so getting these numbers wrong. And then luxury is typically anything over 300,000, and then ultra luxury is usually over like 1 million, I believe, or
Wow.
800,000 or something like that.
Okay, so you're in the lovely market, and what happened in those years there in Minneapolis?
That I just really focused on networking and getting to know as many people as possible, and just made some really good contacts, made some really good friendships, and those just produced weddings.
So one of the things that I've noticed outside looking in, and you'll have to tell me if this is true or not, is that I feel like you have a really good understanding of like where you fit in in real estate. I'd relate it to where your service fits within the timeline of someone's mind. So like in real estate, like first you're probably going to go to the real estate agent to start your process of buying a home, and then you're going to then get to the mortgage person so you can get pre-qualified for the financing. Where do clients go first for as they're getting ready to plan their wedding?
So it depends which market you're in. If you're in budget, lovely, premium, luxury. In the luxury market, I would definitely say that it's much more planner based. I really don't have many people that are like couples that are reaching out to me personally. They usually, if they are reaching out to me, they're like, oh, my planner sent me to you. But I would say the majority of weddings that I'm booking right now is specifically through the planner. When we were in Minneapolis, I would say it was like 50% were through well, maybe not even that much, but like 50% were through a planner or through some other wedding professional. And then the other percentages were from them just reaching out to me on Instagram or, website.
Well, and then so that's really what I'm getting at. And you're such an intuitive person. I think you just like naturally see things, and you may not even realize like you're seeing them. But like what I've always noticed is that you started to like cultivate those relationships with the people who were the genesis of where you wanted to go. Like you I feel like you knew pretty early on, and you and I would talk about like how you wanted to be in the luxury market or the premium market. And I think you like expressed all the time, like, well, those people have their planner in place. And so like they're going to the planner. And so what I saw you very distinctly in Minneapolis during those years, like you were cultivating the relationships with, the florists and things like that, but primarily with the planners who were doing the events that you wanted to do. And I think there's a lot of carryover into any other type of business, like understanding where you fall in that timeline.
So I think what you're saying, how like we would say it in the wedding world is like your ideal client. Like who, is that what you're saying? Like how am I finding what my ideal client is? Because that's kind of, so like back in the day, I was trying to appeal to planners and to brides. And so you could see that in my verbiage on my Instagram and what I would post on my Instagram and what I would post on my website, and how just every single touch point had to do with my ideal client. And now it's much more morphed into what my ideal client is the wedding planner. And so every touch point that I have, whether that's, in my emails or whatever, is all thinking with them in mind. Like, how would this be best for them? How would they want to see this?
How did you identify who your ideal client was? Like was that like a mapping process or?
A lot of people in the industry do actually like map it out in the sense of like, where does that, so let's say it's a bride that you're wanting the ideal couple or your ideal client to be. A lot of people will even get down into like the nitty gritty of like, where does she work? What clothes does she wear? Where does she shop? Where does she vacation? And so that everything about that person. And then when you post on like social media or whatever, you're speaking directly to that person, like it's an actual person.
Okay.
Does that the question you had?
Yeah, and is that what you did?
I didn't have a specific like person. Like I didn't have like a Sheila wasn't her name or anything, but I had something in mind. She like came from generational wealth. She usually never, when we were in Minneapolis, she never lived in Minneapolis. She usually lived outside of Minneapolis. But like family was very important to her. She was like easygoing. She wasn't that bride that's like, take 75 photos of me. Like she wasn't that person. She liked nice things, but then she also liked to go camping.
I think one of the things that, like, at least in my world, I think there's a fear sometimes of like getting specific about your ideal client because you don't want to leave money on the table, or maybe there's a scarcity mindset around like, well, like I'm cutting myself off from these other people. Like, did you ever have feelings like that?
No, not really, because if you appeal to everyone, then you appeal to no one. There's nothing that sticks out, makes you stick out. So I'd rather be a hard no for someone and a hard yes than just be like, yeah, I mean, she's fine.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time? I say people always remember the first time that they like fire a client in real estate. Like, do you remember the first time that you like said no to someone? Was that in like the Minneapolis years or?
I don't know if I remember the first time I said no to someone. I remember having the weddings and then wishing I had said no.
So you've had some horror stories.
Yeah.
Well, so, and then there's also like a big, I imagine like with photography, like a lot of people, or maybe just any small business, like there's that point where you have to like leap and go full time. Like when was that for you?
When was that for me?
I don't know.
That
That's
was,
why I asked.
we got pregnant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was when I was planning on leaving.
Okay.
And then we found out that we were pregnant and we were like, well, that solidifies it. But prior to that, so that would have been, how old are you, Gus and Bear? 9. So that would have been about 10 years ago.
Wow.
But it was getting to be too much. Like there just wasn't enough work-life balance because I was nannying during the day, also doing emails during the day while I was working, and then
we won't tell any of your clients that.
Coming home and editing and doing shoots, and we never saw each other. So
yeah. So your husband has a way of dragging you across the country.
Yep.
So you're in the lovely stage in Minneapolis, and we go like 1,800 miles east. From Minneapolis. So we start in Wisconsin, we move over to Minneapolis, you're starting to progress, we get pregnant, you get full time. So now you're like officially a mompreneur or whatever the cliche.
That's so gross.
That's so gross. You don't like any catchphrases or words.
Well, it's just obnoxious. You don't like ever say like you're a dad.
I say it all the time.
No, you
Dadpreneur.
don't.
Yeah, I say that every
or
week
like,
on the
I'm
podcast.
a girl boss. Like you don't see guys going around being like, I'm a guy boss.
No,
they're just a boss.
I'm a boss baddie. That's what
and
I call
I'm
myself.
just a boss.
All right. So, but anyway, we move over to our home state of Maine.
Yep.
And talk me through moving from Wisconsin to Minneapolis. I didn't feel like personally was like that big of a thing. I think there was a lot of excitement around that for you. But if I remember correctly, there was a little more fear around the move. And I don't want to put those emotions on you if not, but it's just how I'm remembering it. Like a little more fear moving that far away from market, and you were experiencing a level of success. And so I really want to understand like your mindset of making that move and how you just like buckled down because it was really cool. You continued to grow year over year. So like walk me through that.
I think what led to my success with that transition to Maine the most was how I nurtured the relationships going into it before I even moved there. I remember sending out like 1 million flyers to planners, florists, like literally everyone that I could find that was kind of in my same vein of wedding worldness, like had the similar style to myself, had a similar client, all that type of stuff. just because I wanted my name to be seen more often. And then if it's seen more often, then obviously people are going to be like, oh yeah, I just saw that person and let me look more into it. So I remember sending out all those mailers, and that was really helpful. And then also when I moved out there, I started just doing a bunch of free photo shoots, which I know is like, people hate that, but
is that polarizing?
No, it's just like photographers are always like, don't ever do anything for free. Well, sometimes you have to. And I remember doing like a bunch of headshots, and then I would send them like a little like questionnaire essentially that had different things that I know would be like really good for SEO. So like, what's your favorite place to go to in Boston for dinner? What's your favorite place to vacation to in New England? What's your favorite wedding venue? So like things that I could really, the SEO could like grab onto.
Okay, so in case anyone doesn't know what SEO is, what is that?
Search engine optimization.
Wow, that's a babe.
It's hot.
That was so
hot.
So I just think it's interesting. Okay, so that's like 2012, that's like 2017 to 2020.
Yeah.
Was there a reason in particular why you decided to like invest heavily, not monetarily, but time-wise into like SEO?
Yeah, because at least in the wedding world, we're not in office spaces. We don't have, I mean, now I guess there's kind of collaborative spaces here and there, but for the most part, we're all virtual. The only time that I ever see a florist, or I never even see like stationers. I don't see a lot of the vendors. And even when I do, it's only on the wedding day. So the majority of our interactions are online based.
Okay, so this is like, there's so much good crossover here into real estate, and I love it. So you planned with where you were going and where you were moving, and you decided to come from a place of value to all these other vendors by giving them questionnaires, investing, making sure they saw your name as many places. And yeah, like, I mean, you were doing things that typically we might think don't work, like traditional mail and things like that, but you knew that, or you were betting on that if they saw your name enough that they would start to be like, okay, who is this chick that we need to like look up? And so I think that's really, really cool. I think it's also the power of a good question is not only valuable in conversation like you and I are having here in the studio, but also the power of a good question so that you can build that online reputation and that SEO and become seen as an authority before you even get there. Do you remember like how far in advance of the move were you doing stuff like this?
Well, I think that move was pretty quick, wasn't it? Like maybe like
I can't remember.
4 months, 6 months, 6 months maybe? So I think as soon as we decided that we were moving out to Maine, I started doing that.
Okay. Well, that's helpful too, because you're probably not going to see the effects from a search engine perspective for like 6 to 12 months, really, as that's starting to rise up the ranking. So that's pretty cool. So when you get out to New England, what did you find? How did all that stuff help you?
There was the first wedding that I got from a New England vendor actually came because she had a client who was getting married in Maine but was from Minnesota. So it actually randomly worked out. But that's how I got that first one. And then I just wanted to say one other thing that I did too that was really helpful was, so at that point, my ideal client was a bride. It wasn't as heavy on the planner as it is now. And so one thing that I did was I would go to different venues and do like a venue tour and take video and do photos of it, and then just ask. Usually like the venue coordinator will give you like a little tour and be like, and this is like this because of this. And so I'd just write those little things down, and then I'd do a blog post about it and then post it on Pinterest. And those brides are always, their number one thing is their date, and then after their date is their venue. And then usually they start looking at planners and all that type of stuff like that. But usually brides have those two down, even if they're working with a full-time planner. So I knew that brides were going to be looking on Google, looking on Pinterest for different, wedding or different venues, and the majority of couples getting married in Maine, I think it was like Maine was the #1 wedding destination. Do you have a fact checker?
Casey, can you fact check this?
Okay. I think at one point
I'm not that cool.
in the
I'm not
history,
armchair expert.
I know, geez, come on, Dax. That Maine was the #1 destination location for weddings.
Interesting.
So the majority of brides getting married in Maine are not from Maine, and even New England in general. They live in San Francisco, they live in California, whatever. And so they're not able to just go on a Tuesday and go look at the venue that they want to look at. They have to fly across the country or, go on a vacation or something like that. So to be able to see like, oh, this is what the venue looks like other than the venue's horrible pictures, because venues always have horrible pictures on their website. Just to have something more in depth that they could kind of grab onto and be like, ooh, I like this. And so then it was obviously like another touch point.
I think Pinterest is like, at least for me, it's kind of like a forgotten social media tool. Is it?
It's the biggest search. I'm going to need to fact check that again.
Man, I've never had someone lie so much on my show.
I think it's like, yeah, I
Just
don't know. I'm not going to say that.
Just say it with confidence.
It's definitely the #1 search engine thing in the world.
True statement. That one's definitely a lie. But it doesn't minimize the importance because you're in a visual world. And even I think about the fact of there's a great agent out in, I think Heather's in Florida, but Heather Kane does a lot on style. So she has a group called Style to Design. And I don't know if she does a lot of her business growth on Pinterest in particular, but she has this Pinterest style program.
Yeah.
And just really capitalizes on design trends and things like that. And I think we forget sometimes that all of these other social platforms contribute to your search engine optimization too. Mm-hmm. And so you need to be cultivating a reputation on all of these places as well. And so I think it's worthwhile, even if you're in real estate, to be curating a bunch of Pinterest boards, mm-hmm. so that again, you're representing yourself and your style to your ideal client. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think it's something that probably most realtors don't do.
Well, I mean, when we moved out here, we do nothing. We bought our house sight unseen, and it would have been nice to know have a blog post or something. As much as people say blog posts have gone away, I still read them. So there's one person out there. And
they're actually the most searched thing in the world.
Yeah, that's true. I know that for a fact. But just to be able to look up something that was Lookout Mountain, why it's such a great neighborhood or something, and have someone that's boots on the ground, being able to tell me that.
I'm pretty sure that the way that we even knew about Arcadia before we got here was from pictures of the design of homes in Arcadia.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think so maybe that's one takeaway for you is get out into Pinterest and create a board by neighborhood and start making yourself a valuable designer as a real estate professional.
It's so much easier on the app too, which I have an app for Pinterest.
So this is an inside joke. Jaimee is a millennial. She's almost 34. I got that right. And you have 3 apps on your phone. She does everything in the Safari browser, and it annoys the shit out of me. But you have a Pinterest app. That's good.
I do have a Pinterest app, and it is a lot easier on the their business platform on that than it is on the desktop version. So.
Good. All right. I want to get into you have definitely made a move into the luxury market.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have a lot of really good ideas and thoughts and practices around luxury. And so at first I want to hear the story about how you kind of finally feel we never arrive. We're always growing and yada, yada. But when you finally felt you kind of arrived at awesome, I'm at my ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at my ideal price point. How did you get there? And what are some of the shifts that you had to make in the business to make sure that you continue to stand out in that arena? Does Does that make sense?
No, but I'll try to make it make sense.
Okay.
I don't know. Say it a different way.
Well, you like finally got into luxury. So
Yes.
Okay, and maybe we just tell the story. Like you started that. Would you say you were still in New England when you really started breaking into like luxury, or was that when we finally got to Arizona?
Yes, for sure. But I would say I had like a handful every year of luxury ones, and then I still had ones that I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. Weddings that just weren't hitting the bar. But yeah, so I would say probably even within the last 4 years, I've really had a consistent every single wedding as luxury.
What was there anything pivotal that like caused that, or was it just?
Yeah, I started focusing solely on planners. So on my contact form on my website, they have to put in their planner when they reach out. And if they don't have one, then I just say, I'm so sorry, I only work with couples that have planners. And then I just shifted all of my branding, my Instagram posts to the ideal client of a wedding planner, and a high-end luxury wedding planner.
Very cool. And the other thing that you did with this too, like I remember when you'd come to me and you'd talk about like your pricing and increasing your pricing.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that and your thought process around pricing for your ideal client.
Well, I mean, one example that was given to me a long time ago was when you go to Target and you're looking at buying a new shampoo and there's 2 bottles on the shelf and they look very similar, but one is $10 and the other one is $25. You're going to buy the $25 one. Well, you're not, because you're a cheapskate.
I was like, you are?
But I am. Because you think with a higher price point there must be something going on. I'm not a professional shampooer, so I don't know everything there is to know about shampoos. So just an increase in price sometimes gives you that air of being better.
Interesting. And so like you were willing to like shift your prices, and I remember you being like pretty committed to that. Like just like, no, this is my price. I'm holding steady, and I know my value.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing too, is you can't just up your prices and then be a shitty photographer and have a shitty, service and whatever. You can up your prices, but you have to make sure that you're following up with that, with meeting all those points. I feel like none of those words actually made sense, but okay.
How do you set yourself apart from an experience? Like I think when a lot of us think luxury, mm-hmm. like there has to be something special about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what does that like look like? What sets you apart as a luxury professional? So
my couples and my planner, like my planner ideal planner, whatever, they're busy. And that is, I think, the overwhelming number one thing about people that are in that luxury market, people that are making a significant amount of money, people who are paying $1 million for their wedding. They're busy. They're usually professionals. They're doctors. They're lawyers. They also love to travel. They have friends. They go out. They're not just sitting at home, doing nothing. And so I want to make sure that I am not adding any more stress. I'm not adding any more time than needs to be. So I always tell my couples, you have constant access to me. If you have any questions, I'm here. I will answer them. You can text me, email, call me. I am not going to reach out to you until I absolutely need to. So we do our initial intake call. We do our contract online. I make it as easy as possible. And then we do our down payment online so that that can be as easy as possible. And then my next connection point with them isn't until a month before the wedding, when we have our final meeting, and it's an hour-long meeting. I ask them 7 million questions, but that's the only time that I'm asking them questions. I used to send questionnaires, send this stuff, send that stuff. And I ended up finding out that it was just kind of no one cared. No one wanted to do it. I mean, when we get questionnaires for like bringing the kids to the doctors or, you know, whatever, I'm like, this is the last thing I want to do right now. So I just try to not be a burden on my couples during the planning process. And then on the wedding day, something that I believe is necessary in the luxury realm is I'm anything to them. I'm just there to serve them. Yes, I'm there to get amazing photos and to, you know, do all of that stuff in the photography world. But if they need a glass of water or they're crying or they need their mom, like I am that person as well. I can go get them something. I can go, if there's a problem, I can go figure out someone who can fix that problem. So I think just going above and beyond on that. Also just with like, this is kind of smaller, but like I try and gift them something that speaks to their, I don't know what the word would be, not like status, I guess. So right now I'm gifting all of my couples a Vogue coffee table book. I used to, when I was in the budget category, I would gift my clients like a, you know, those like boxes that like there's like gummies and then
like a gift box.
Yeah, whatever. And I would gift those to them. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, all these people that I work for are very wealthy. They don't need gummies. They don't need another candle. They don't need another notepad. Yes, that might be nice and they might like that, but more so they're gonna like something that's a little bit more, I don't know, has a little bit more weight to it, I guess. Well, it has like
staying power.
Yeah, and so a coffee table book, at least for me, I love coffee table books. It can be, used as decoration, but it's also a Vogue wedding coffee table book. So I always say, like, I hope that this is good for inspiration for your wedding day. And Vogue is kind of like the tippity top of the wedding world. So
I heard a couple things that I think you guys should pick up on. One is that you understand that your client's most valuable asset is their time.
Yeah.
And it does seem kind of counterintuitive, I think, because often we'll talk about sending out surveys and making sure they feel well taken care of and all these things. And like, it seems like you've discovered that like, no, staying out of their way and fulfilling like the job, they've hired you to do a job to get it done. And so they also need to trust you that you're only going to interject at those important point in time. And that is really cool. You always get like really, really good reviews and clients rave about you. And so there must be something about that infrequency of communication that, you know, these wealthy clients really appreciate. And I think there's a lot of crossover there. That's important. The second thing I, heard you say, was on the wedding day, you're not there just to fulfill a job description. And I think like just performance in general, what I've found with like top performers in business is, we've all heard the analogy of like the CEO should be the first person to take the trash out. The CEO should be the first person to wash the floor. You know, it doesn't matter. You're not there just to fulfill a job description.
Yeah.
You're there to meet clients where they're at and serve at a high level.
Yeah.
And so you've figured that out. And then the third thing is
the amount of glass that I have cleaned up on a dance floor.
Glass?
Yeah, because drunk people are dropping their glasses, and then everyone's like, "What do we do?" And I'm the only sober one there. So
your job's so dangerous.
I know it is.
So kind of hot. And the third thing was just like really putting like thought and energy, not just like giving a gift to give a gift, but there's like really an art to gifting something that's going to be memorable. Mm-hmm. And so those are pretty cool things. How have you balanced just a growing business, growing clientele, with all the other demands of life?
So like, what's my work-life balance?
Yeah.
I don't think that it is I think it's a annual thing, work-life balance to me.
What does that mean?
So some months mom is gone a lot. Mom is gone Thursday through Sunday. And some months mom is not gone and mom is home every other Saturday, and mom gets to go to all of the school events. So I just try to prioritize family when I can, and then obviously just not taking on too much work and just being smart about that.
It's funny you describe it that way because Gary Keller calls that counterbalance. It's not a work-life balance, it's just counterbalance, that there's always demands on either end of the spectrum, and sometimes you're going to have to be like all in on the work, and sometimes you're all in on family. And to him, it's like presence is more important than like balance.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to be in a perfect state of balance. And I think you definitely demonstrate that. The other thing I've seen a lot in you, and I don't say it that much anymore, but I thought it was kind of cutesy, was I feel like you've like built a nap time empire, because in the early years with the kids, like it would be like the nap times where you're just like busting stuff out. And I just admire how efficient you are with your time. Where did you learn that? Or like, how do you stay efficient?
I had like 30 minutes maybe before.
There's gotta be a secret. Tell me the secret.
There's not a secret. There's just put your head down and get shit done. It's not that hard. I don't know. I think I just didn't have much time. And so it was, how can I do things in the best way and the quickest way possible? And that's still helped me out today. A lot of people, and like you guys use CRMs, and then a lot, like CRMs are really good in the or not good. A lot of people use them in the wedding industry. But I've also just found my little way of doing things that has worked really well for me, and I just stick to it. And every once in a while when I'm having like a slow season, I will reevaluate how I'm doing each certain portion of my job and see if I can do it better. But I'm not constantly looking at how do I reinvent as far as like the structuring of how I do my work and like my office stuff and all that type of stuff.
Is that because you like feel like you're winning, you're satisfied? Or like
I have to get back to you on that one. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
How do you determine if like you're being successful in business? Like, what does that mean to you?
If I have happy clients, if I am feeling fulfilled, if I'm excited to go to work. If I'm not excited to go to a wedding, it's a real bummer. It's not great. And that hasn't happened in a while. Like every single wedding that I've had for the past couple of years, I've been super pumped about being there.
That's neat. Couple more questions.
Okay, I'm here.
I think it's cool. The kids think it's really cool whenever you work with an athlete and
I
you've
know,
been able to
so cool.
work with athletes. Yeah. You don't show it very often, but you get so excited when you get to tell the boys that you are working with an athlete.
They're the only reason why I take on those clients.
And we actually have a small community of people that specialize just in sports and entertainment. So this question is kind of for them. Like, what have you found to be key things when working with athletes? Is there anything in particular, or how did you break into that community? Was it just through the planners as well? Like,
the professional athlete community is actually really small. Everyone knows everyone. So like, not even just like all the NFL players know all the NFL players. Like, the NFL players know the MLB players who know the NHL players. Like, it's so small. Everyone knows each other. So I think just doing a good job, showing up, being a kind person, I think that helps. I think there's also this air of professional athletes are so used to having their photo taken. They're so used to being like oohed and awed over. They don't want to do that on their wedding day. They just want to be treated like a normal person. They don't want to have you be starstruck. They don't want that. And so I think I also am just not a fangirl of anyone or anything. So I think that's been helpful for me too. And I also know like zero athletes, so
So ignorance is bliss.
yeah, kind of.
Well, that is interesting perspective. I guess I haven't really looked at it like that. They are so used to being, they almost just want to be a quote unquote normal person.
Yeah.
And have you found that with celebrities too? Like, because you've shot some celebrities.
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone just wants to be treated normal on their wedding day. They're not looking for another fangirl. They're looking to be with their best friend. It's the first time probably ever that they've had all of their loved ones under one roof. And so they don't need the extra noise of like, oh my gosh, I just love that you were in such and such movie or whatever. They want you to be there and be professional and do your job and let them have fun.
Where do you see your business going from here?
I would love to do more international travel, but I don't want to do too much because it is such a big commitment. Other than that, I just want to grow in a tiny way. I'm really happy where I am. I love working with professional athletes. They're amazing, and that's kind of like my bread and butter right now. And yeah, I really enjoy it. It makes me happy. I love going to work.
Sounds like you're fulfilled.
I'm very fulfilled.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you consider to be your biggest success in life?
I think probably foster care. Having all our babies through foster care that came through our house.
Oh, that's a separate episode in and of itself. So maybe if you haven't been so uncomfortable in the studio, we can do that and it be more of a conversation, because I'm definitely interviewing you today.
Yeah, you are.
Interviewing the crap out of you. What's been your biggest failure in business, or what's been the hardest part of being a self-employed person?
I think my biggest failure was when I didn't communicate everything, both options, I guess I should say, to the client. So I remember having a client once who this was really early on, and they chose not to have a second shooter because of finances. And I am never someone that's going to pressure my clients into purchasing anything for the money. Like, I'm not an upseller and like, oh, you should get a bigger, better. That's
what was that?
And so I didn't really push the issue or anything like that. But there were moments that were missed because I obviously can't be in two places at once. And I remember them saying to me, I wish you had just told us that, like, I wish you would have told us the pros and cons of having a second shooter. And so now I tell my clients, this is the pro, these are the pros, these are the cons of this, these are the pros, these are the cons of this. You guys make your own decision. So they can never come back on me and be like, we're not professionals in this. We've never done a wedding before. The majority of my couples, this is their first wedding. And you don't know what you don't know. And so they need me as a professional to be like, okay, this is what you need to know. And then you make the executive decision off of that.
Well, I think that's interesting that you put it that way, because I would also say, like, you know, observing you over the years, one of the things that you have become so good at, and I think all professionals need to become better at this, since they're hiring you as the professional, they want to be directed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go to my doctor and have my doctor not direct me.
Yeah.
Like, I actually had an experience today where I went to a chiropractor, and I've not been to a chiropractor. I don't go to a chiropractor that much. So I'm looking at this x-ray, and he asked me, well, so what do you think we should do here? And I'm like, and he had already explained like maintenance care versus preventative care. And so like I had these options, but still I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And it's just like and he was great. Like, Dr. Nick, if you listen to this, like, no, he was great in most aspects, but that was very interesting because
you should have just said amputate. just take it
cut
all.
my head off.
Yeah.
It was in my neck. But I have found that you either on the wedding day, and I like never accompany you on a wedding day anymore. It's like
you used to.
I used to, and I hated it.
And you were bad at it.
I was horrible at it.
Dave's not a number 2 guy. He's a number 1 guy.
But.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's all right. I remember where I was going with it, and it's that you are very decisive about directing your people to what you feel is best, like directing them into certain positions, not necessarily posing. I think I don't know all the technical terms, but I think you're very good even on your intake calls with your clients of like directing based on everything you've told me. Here's my prescription.
Yeah.
And like you're really good at like doing the needs analysis of like what they feel they need and what their vision is for the day, and then saying, okay, great. In light of all that, like A, B, C, D is my recommendation. Mm-hmm. And like you said, then leave it on them, but also be like, yeah, this is how I would proceed based on what you've told me. And so I think that's another thing too. And I think that just comes from confidence in your value proposition, confidence in your skill level. And one of the ways that we like grow in that confidence is just repetition in any business, right? Totally. And so, I mean, you've been doing this for 14 years. You're not new at this. So it's been really cool to kind of walk through the timeline and the story. Did we hit everything that?
I think so.
All right.
Whole story.
Man. Well, next time we could just have a conversation. Okay. But I think it's been really cool to learn through this. I've learned a couple things, and to also just share like a different kind of business with listeners who are mostly in real estate, because there's at least 7 or 8 things that like totally just translate in any business. And so that's neat. So I wanted before.
So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, I think real estate, well, I sent that thing to you that my friend wrote about how like real estate and photography or the wedding industry is so similar.
I don't remember that. Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh. Read your text, man. It was like a picture that she had written or whatever. I screenshot it. I sent it to you. And it was like, wedding industry, they are spending a huge amount of money. When you're buying your house, you're spending a huge amount of money. Just like, it just broke it down. And the like wedding industry is pretty easy to get into. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to have a license in some of the, different areas. You don't have like much overhead. Same with real estate. You don't have much overhead. You don't have to go to school. You do obviously have to get whatever you have to get. That thing that everyone talks about. What is it called?
A license.
Well, what's the test that you take?
It's a real estate license.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's very similar. And one thing that I have learned is I feel like I learn the most outside of my industry, but in an industry that is like similar. Yeah. So like I learn a lot from designers and that, because it's like a solo entrepreneur a lot of the time, dealing with these high-end clients, dealing with, all that type of stuff. So
yeah, there's a lot of truth in that.
Similar.
Like hospitality and service, all of those different things. So I can't let you go without asking you the same 3 questions that I ask every single guest. Rapid fire. You're always.
I've never listened to this podcast, so I have no idea what these guests are.
Okay, get this: 150 episodes, and you've never freaking listened to an episode of my podcast.
Because I can't stand your fake laugh.
I don't fake laugh. Have I fake laughed today?
No, because I'm real, and I would call you out on it.
I think that was back in the old days of the podcast. Like since Real Talk relaunched.
When did it relaunch?
Like 7 episodes ago.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
I haven't listened to it, but
you're wonderful. I love you.
I support you in other ways.
I know you do. So 3 questions. So this is going to be even more fun because you are not good with being put on the spot with questions.
Nope.
And so rapid fire. What book has been most influential on your business and why?
Oh, I'm not done yet, but I read, I'm reading The Luxury Shit.
The Luxury Shit. Good.
It's a red book.
We're gonna link up.
We're gonna fact check that.
We're gonna today's keyword is
it's like the luxury something or other, but it's really old, but it's really good. And it just goes through how all of these luxury brands, how they run their business. So that one's really good. And then what's the Red Ocean, Blue Ocean? Red Ocean,
Blue Ocean? Or,
yeah.
Blue Ocean strategy?
Yeah, that one. That was really good too.
Very cool. What person has been most influential on your business and why?
On my business?
Yeah.
Probably.
And I actually, since Real Talk, I have changed it up a little bit. And I've also said, who's been most influential that you would like to say thank you to?
Oh, that's sweet. I think you have probably been most influential in my business.
That's not true.
That is true.
What?
I am not. I was going to say a fluff butter, but I don't think that's a real thing.
You're not a fluff butter. You're so good with words. I don't know if I've laughed this much in an episode.
No, blowing smoke. That's what I meant to say. Not just blowing smoke.
Okay.
Also known as fluff butter. But no, for real. I think you have really pushed me. You've also always had a like quote unquote stable job, whereas mine's commission based. And so it's a little bit easier for me to be a little bit more fluid knowing that we have some of our finances covered on your end. So thank you, Dave.
Aw, that's really sweet.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you.
Man.
Can I get that second rabbit?
No. Yeah, no, there's a therapy bunny in our world, and I'm still not a fan, but that's all right. Whatever makes you happy, babe. All right, question 3. If you're talking to a bunch of business owners out there and you're challenging them to take action on their business, what's the one thing that you would challenge any entrepreneur to go do right now to make progress in their business? Like one action that someone should take.
Wow, that's like a really intense question. I feel like if I don't answer it correctly, I'm gonna die or something.
You won't, I promise.
Okay. Go. Just like start. And you have to be confident in yourself. No one else is gonna be confident in you. People will only start to have confidence in you once they see you have confidence in yourself.
Wow. So.
Whoa, that was deep.
That was so deep.
That was really profound, and I'm super smart.
Super smart. If people want to find more of your content, connect with you, see all your beautiful work, where should they go? I'm Jaimee. My parents were on drugs when they named me, so it's Jaimee, C as in cat, Morse on Instagram, and then JamieMorse.com. That's pretty much where I hang out. Awesome. Well, I know you're a busy working mom.
Super busy.
Boss bitch.
Just a boss.
Just a boss. And so I appreciate you coming and hanging out in the studio with me. That was fun.
Super thankful for it.
All right. I think we have a date tonight.
Did you get a babysitter?
I got a babysitter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay, great.
We're good. All right. Guys, this has been another episode of Real Talk with David. Go play all in.